Hi, you've tuned in to the Sunday message from Sunny Hill Church, Ferndown. To learn more about us, including our gathering times, midweek groups, plus other messages and content, visit us online at sunnyhill.church/Ferndown. We believe you'll be blessed and transformed as you listen today. Great. Who's enjoying the Freedom series? Yes. Great, the second row is. That's excellent. That's brilliant. Maybe you guys need the most freedom. Maybe that's what. I don't know if you've noticed, if you read who reads the Bible here? Yeah, good. Okay, we've got a few hands there. That's good. When you read the Bible, particularly the Gospels, have you noticed that freedom is the foundation of Jesus' life and ministry? Like, he embodies freedom perfectly. He lived a free life completely, perfectly. In every situation he found himself in, whatever came his way, whether it was trouble or pain or difficulty or even victory or even, great stuff that happened, his response was always dictated by his perfect internal freedom and not by the external circumstance. Like, the freedom that he had internally was what dictated how he responded to every situation he found himself in. He never gave up his freedom no matter what was thrown at him. He never relinquished his freedom. Let me give you a few examples. So right at the start of Mark's Gospel, chapter 1, we read that Jesus heals Peter's mother-in-law. Yeah, he heals their mother-in-law. It's a great miracle in Mark chapter 1. And people see this miracle and they all start rushing to the house, like all the sick people in the village, in the town, come to Jesus and say, well, can you heal us too? And he does. He has this great evening of healing people of both physical ailments, but he also does quite a lot of deliverance as well. It's a great start to his ministry this evening. But the following morning, he wakes up, and it says he goes off by himself and finds a quiet, while it's still dark, so while everybody else is still asleep, he gets up, goes and finds a quiet place to pray. And while he's there, we don't know how long he's there for, but the disciples eventually find him and they come up to him and say, you need to come back because loads of people are gathering. They all want to see you. They've got needs. They want to be healed. They want deliverance. And Jesus says to them says, let's go somewhere else. Like, what? What are you talking about, Jesus? You've got a great kickstart to your ministry, and it's just over there in that house. They're all gathered. They're all waiting for you to come and do your thing. He's like, it's time to move on to another town. Why? Because he's not bound by people's expectations. He's not bound by success. He's completely in tune with the Father's will, and that's what dictates his response. He's free to do what the Father wants him to do in this moment. Only his Father's purpose. 7 times in the Gospel we read that Jesus heals people on the Sabbath day. Why? Because he's not bound to the religious people. He's not bound to religion and tradition. Even though the people around him judging him for it, he's like, no. I'm doing this because I'm free to do my Father's will. Fabiano last week, he spoke about the time when Jesus went to the house of a religious leader to have tea there, and this sinful woman comes in and she starts to cry over his feet, and she breaks the jar of perfume on his feet and wipes his feet with her hair. And all around Jesus, all these people are judging him. But Jesus doesn't mind. He doesn't stop. He doesn't stop extending love and grace in this moment because he's got this perfect internal freedom. He's not bound to people's opinions of himself. He's completely free. When Jesus is told that Lazarus, one of his best friends, is sick, and Jesus is 4 days walk away, what does Jesus do? He waits a couple of days. He doesn't leave, even though this is his great friend. People are expecting him to go. Like, your friend is really sick. He's kind of going to die. You need to get there. But Jesus waits a couple of days. He's got his freedom to make choices based on his ultimate purpose and not based on the urgency of the moment. He has freedom. When he's arrested and when he's standing trial, he stands before the Roman authorities, and Jesus is calm and he's unthreatened. His internal freedom doesn't waver even as his external freedom is being stripped from him. He understands where his authority comes from. And when he's facing death on the cross, his freedom allows him to say to his Father, like we looked at this today in our prayer time this morning, Cooley read this out. He says to his Father, not my will, but yours be done. He's not controlled by fear or pain or by self-preservation. Jesus' freedom is free from people's control, free from pressure and expectation, free from fear and opinion, free from being ruled by his own emotions, free from religion and tradition. He is our example of freedom. You see that, right? Jesus is a great demonstration of true freedom. And that's what we're aiming for. He is in this series, we're finding freedom. There it is. We're finding freedom. That's the freedom we want. That's the freedom we're looking for. That's the freedom we want to embody as well. And the great news is this. Jesus is not only our example, he's not only our model, he's the source of our freedom. He doesn't just show us, he makes it possible for us to have that same freedom. He's made a way for us to live in that same freedom. I want to show you another passage, and this is in the book of Acts chapter 4. And at this point, Jesus has died, he's resurrected, and he's returned back to heaven. The Holy Spirit has come on the day of Pentecost. And the church has been birthed and is beginning to explode around Jerusalem and Judea. The Bible tells us at this point there's around about 5,000 men plus women and children in this church. So it's quite early on, but it's already exploding. It's growing really fast. And the disciples are kind of performing many miracles. They're sharing the gospel in the name of Jesus. And at this point, Peter and John, they have healed a guy in Jesus' name in front of the temple, and they've caused a bit of a stir. And they've now been arrested and they've been brought before the Sanhedrin. This is the Jewish court. These are the same people who tried and condemned Jesus. Okay? These are the same people. And Peter and John are standing before these same guys right now who are questioning them about what they've just done, healing this guy, and where their authority comes from. The Bible tells us that Peter, he stands up filled with the freedom that comes from the Holy Spirit, and he begins to talk about Jesus, and he begins to talk about salvation. And as he talks to them, they're amazed at what he says. This is what happens. Acts chapter 4 verse 13, so this is the religious leaders, this is the Sanhedrin, this is the highest Jewish court. When they saw the courage of Peter and John and realized that they were unschooled, ordinary men, they were astonished. And they took note that these men had been with Jesus. There was something about Peter, and there was something about John that these religious experts couldn't quite put their finger on. What they knew was that they were unschooled, ordinary men. In fact, the translation, I've said this before, the translation, this word ordinary, the Greek word ordinary here is idiotas. Idiotas. You can guess what we don't use that word for, right? Now, I don't think they're saying that Peter and John, we've used this and we've changed what its meaning is, but I think what they're saying is, these are just regular guys. They've had no special training. These guys are not special, and yet somehow they are special. They're not special, but they are special, right? They're unschooled, ordinary men. There's something about Peter. There's something about John. I don't know, have you ever seen the movie There's Something About Mary? Yes. Yeah? Erica has. It stars Cameron Diaz, and she plays this lady called Mary, and all the men around her, all the men in her life keep falling in love with her. There's something about Mary. They keep falling in love with her, right? But usually when we use that phrase, there's something about so-and-so. There's something about Erica. There's something about, I'll move on, Erica, don't worry. Something about Dan. There's something about Alini. When we say that, usually we mean we can't quite put our finger on what it is, but there's something about that person. I don't know if you ever met somebody and started to talk to them, and you think something in your heart stirs, and you go, I wonder if they're a Christian. Like that happens a lot, right? If you're a believer, if you're a Christian and you meet another Christian and you haven't spoken about your faith, but there's something, you go, there's something about them. I wonder if they're a Christian. And then you kind of start to realize, and maybe you feel that they are. People felt this way about Jesus too. Crowds were drawn to him. When people were with him, they were astonished by him. They were astonished by the things he said and the things he did. They were amazed. There was something different about Jesus. Over 20 times in the Gospels, we're told that the people who were with him, they marveled at him. They were astonished by him. They were amazed at what he said. They were captivated by him. They were astonished at his wisdom and his authority. Jesus looked and sounded different. And now here we are with Peter and John, and the only thing that the religious leaders can point out is these men had been with Jesus. Like these men had spent time with Jesus. Jesus looked and sounded different. The disciples who spent time with Jesus looked and sounded different. And the more I am with Jesus, the more different, the differenter I look and sound as well. The more you are with Jesus, the more, what's the word? The differenter. That's not the right word. The more difference there will be in your life too. And this is the thing. We are supposed to look different. We are supposed to be different. We are supposed to feel different and act different. And that difference is rooted in the freedom we've been given. I wonder if we truly understand the freedom that is ours in Christ and whether we're living in that freedom. Do we know how to take that freedom that is ours and gradually, over the course of time, let that freedom extend to every area of our lives? Like a rain barrel. You know those rain barrels that you see connected to drain pipes? Gradually, over the course of time, the rain fills those barrels up and it fills every part of that barrel. That's what's supposed to happen in us. God's freedom is supposed to permeate every area of our lives. And there'll be areas where we're not quite free yet, but we're a work in progress and that freedom is available to us. And we're getting more and more freedom. Every challenging situation that we meet with is met with God's peace and provision because we have freedom. Every thought is taken captive. Every sin against us is forgiven. Every challenging situation we met with peace and provision. Every action is guided by the Holy Spirit and is rooted in peace and joy and hope and love. Every victory that we get doesn't go to our heads. It doesn't make us prideful because it's grounded in freedom. Every relationship that we have has at its foundation the freedom that is our inheritance. People should look at us and be amazed or astonished because there's something about us. There's something different about us. Our responses are not what they would expect, and our reactions to circumstances are not the same. And maybe people will look at you, and maybe people look at me, and they will say, these are unschooled idiots. But yet, there's something about them. And they keep talking about this Jesus thing. What is it? I would like that. I would like that too. That's why we're looking to find freedom. Now, all that is by way of an introduction. For the rest of my message today, I want to talk about a specific area of our lives that we want to find freedom in. There may be many areas of your life that you need freedom in, but today I'm just going to talk about one. And I think this is probably the biggest, and I think this is probably the biggest because it's a big one for me. So I expect it's a big one for you as well. And it's a big one because Jesus talked about this a lot. And I want to talk about financial freedom. Freedom in our finances, in our resources. Jesus spoke about finances and wealth and possessions and income and spending and giving and generosity a lot. A lot. Jesus spent a good chunk of his ministry teaching about these things. And if you went to a seminar or a conference, and it was kind of outside the church, that had the title, The Keys to Financial Freedom, you would expect that this would most likely be approached as a maths problem, right? How can you invest your money better? How can you earn more money? How can you save money? How can you make your money work for you? How can you spend less? And then none of these things are bad. Having tools to help you manage your money better is actually really helpful. but they are solving a different issue. They won't make you free. These things won't make you free because financial freedom is not a maths issue, it's a mind issue. Financial freedom is not a maths issue, it's a mind issue. It doesn't start with having more income or learning how to spend less or learning how to make better budgets. People might not say that their treasure is their finances or their money or their wealth, but you can see it in the choices that they make. We can see where people's treasure is by the choices they make on a daily basis. What occupies our thinking, what occupies our time, what occupies our attention. So I'm going to give you some principles this morning that I find help me keeping my treasure in the right place and therefore my heart in the right place. Okay, so number one, freedom in finances means, number one, being content with what you have. We've got to be content with what we have. Luke chapter 12, verse 15, this is Jesus talking. He said to them, watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. We say, watch out and be on your guard. This is not a one-time victory. You get victory over it and then it's done. It's like something you've got to be on your guard against all the time. You've got to watch out for this particular thing all the time. There is an enemy trying to attack your freedom at every opportunity. And you know what? The desire to have more and more is always crouching at our doors. And it's the opposite of contentment. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie After Earth. It's an older movie, not a very old movie, but kind of, I don't know, quite a long time ago. Will Smith. It's like they go to this planet, Will Smith and his son, who's actually played by Will Smith's son. And the son has to go out and find something on this planet. And Will Smith, the dad, he says to him, every single decision you make will be life or death. This is a class 1 quarantined planet. Everything on this planet has evolved to kill humans. Okay, that's what he says to his son as his son's going out. Everything has evolved to kill humans. And you tell you what, society, the society we live in today, everything has evolved to make you be discontent. The world we live in is designed to make you feel discontentment, to not feel contentment with what you have. Society is a contentment stealing machine. All right, everything around us in life is designed to make us discontent. And if we're passive about this, then we'll lose our freedom because we are bombarded by adverts all the time. I looked at some latest figures and they show that people are watching between 20 and 80 minutes a day of adverts. 20 to 80 minutes a day of adverts. Which is, if we take the lowest estimate of 20 minutes, that equates to over 2 hours a week, which equates to over 10, 12-hour days every single year of watching adverts. Laying aside the complete waste of time that is, what this is doing is feeding your soul discontentment. It's making you want more. It's telling you all the time you should not be happy with what you have. You should not be happy with this gadget or your car or your clothes or your holiday or your shoes or whatever you need to fill the blank in there. Like it's designed, the world is designed to make us feel discontent. But we have to be on our guard. Hebrews 13 verse 5 says, keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have because God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. This is such a simple verse, but it's actually profound. These first two commands here, live free from the love of money, live free and be content with what you have. We've got to be free. So this is kind of reminding us that actually the love of money, it's not just something that, you need to just be wary of. It's just something you've got to be careful of because it will steal your freedom. It will make you a prisoner if we're not careful, if you're not content with what you have. The love of money is something that we have to keep ourselves free from. Paul writing to Timothy, he pushes it even further. He says, the love of money is the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. Having money is not evil. Being wealthy is not bad. But having this wrong relationship with money will take you down a path to slavery. And the best weapon that we have against this is contentment, being happy with what we have. The passage also tells us why we can be content, because God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. How does that connect with that? Because it's a trust issue. If we can trust that he is with us always, that will feed our contentment. That will feed our contentment. And like the Sanhedrin, the Jewish council in that verse at the start, the difference in Peter and John was this. They took note that they had been with Jesus. And if Jesus promises to be with us, to never leave us and never forsake us, then we can be with Jesus as well. Then our trust is well placed when it's on him alone. And maybe there will be something different about us when the price of fuel is skyrocketing, when the price of bread and bananas is going up, when the mortgage rates are going up, when our income feels like it's going down in real terms. There's something different about us because our trust is in God. And our freedom comes from that. We are content in all circumstances. That's freedom. So freedom in finances also means, number 2, doing the right thing. We've got to do the right thing. And I expect most of you have read or have heard the parable of the talents. Jesus tells this parable, and for 2 of the servants that the master talks to, he says to them, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in small things. I will now give you larger things to steward. I can now trust you with bigger things. In order for us to find freedom in our finances, we've got to be trustworthy stewards. We've got to be trustworthy stewards. When we make right choices in the small things, when we can be entrusted with small things, God will entrust us with more. And this is what freedom in our finances means. Us trusting God and God being able to trust us with more. And this applies to all areas of our life. I don't expect many of you are going to plan to rob a bank or steal a car. But actually, let me tell you, it's the small things that matter. Let me give you a few examples. Sharing a Netflix account with somebody outside your home. Not declaring cash income on your tax returns. Keeping extra change when you've been overpaid or undercharged. Leaving work early or extending your breaks by a few minutes. Using loopholes to get away with paying less or claiming more. Returning items to Amazon after you've used them. You know what I mean? Like, these are just examples. Trying to get away with something small but that you know is not quite right. Because these small decisions, they're not really about money. It feels like they're about money. It feels like they are, but they're not. They're about trust. They're about trust. Whenever I am tempted to shortcut on something like this, there's a quiet voice inside me that says, do you not trust me to provide for you? God's voice inside me saying, do you not trust me to provide for you? I remember a couple of years ago, I went on a trip with my brother Dom. We went to Poland to visit the concentration camps in Krakow. And when we were traveling from the airport to the hotel, we got on a bus, but realized that we didn't have the right money to pay for the bus journey. But all the buses there, they're all automated, and there's nobody there checking up on you. So we were there, there was nobody there checking. Our first response was, great, free bus travel. But then that voice in my head was, do you not trust me to provide for a bus journey? And I'm like, oh, okay. So I spent the rest of that journey from the airport to the hotel kind of downloading an app so I could pay this £1.50 bus journey fee. I had to pay something like £30. They had a minimum amount I had to put on the app. I put £30 on the app so I could pay this bus journey fee. It took me so long, and I didn't even finish the process until I was off the bus and in the hotel. I was still paying for the bus journey that I'd already taken. And my brother was looking at me going, you're mad. Like, why are you trying so hard to pay this? And it's because that voice inside me was saying, do you not trust me to provide you the money to pay for a bus journey? And you might think, Adam, you're a muppet. You might think, Adam, you muppet. Maybe God was providing you with a free bus travel. Maybe he was. But what I've realized is that these small decisions where I get to demonstrate to God that I trust him only, they make a big difference in my life. Because when God sees my heart, that I trust him in every little thing, he says to me, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful in small things. I can entrust you with more. And he has blessed me and my family in so many ways, and I never want him to stop blessing us. And I've also realized this, it's not the big decisions that cause problems in most people's life. It's the daily small decisions that actually cause the most problems. The decisions that not many people notice because they are hidden, and these have such a big impact. Do you remember the widow who put in the 2 small coins? What did Jesus say? He said, I tell you, she has put in more than all the others who are putting in large amounts. This is a kingdom principle that works when we're talking about generosity and also about integrity. It's in the small acts when no one's looking that we make or break our freedom. Which brings us to our third and final principle for today. Freedom in finances means living a generous life. There's a key piece of information that you need to know about money and freedom. And this is a secret that will potentially change your life. It's really simple, but again, it's really profound. And it's a game changer. And it's this: money doesn't make you generous. Money doesn't make you generous. If you're not generous when you don't have it, you won't be generous when you do have it. I need some help. Erica, can I borrow you for a moment? Thank you. I've used this analogy before, but it's so good. Can you play that for me?
Yeah,
okay. Thank you.
I'm going to tune up first, all right?
Actually, that's not bad. Play us a nice tune. Go on. Okay, yeah, that's it. Okay, great. Now, if I was to... Anyway, you're going to play it again. Okay, did that sound good or bad? Honest, can be honest.
Good.
Bad. It sounded bad, Erica. Okay, I'm going to mic it up now. Will it sound better or worse? Go on. There we go. Lovely. Yeah, good. Okay, thank you, Eric. You can sit down. You've been very helpful. Thank you. Does the mic make it sound better? No. Okay. The mic is an amplifier. Money is an amplifier. It amplifies what's already there. Jesus knew. So if I'm not generous when I don't have it, when I do have it, it'll just be amplified that I'm not a generous person. It works in the same way as a microphone, as an amplification. It's an amplifier. It amplifies what's already there. Jesus knew this is why he says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with very much. If I am a good steward when I've got a little, money will amplify the fact that I'm a good steward and I'm generous. Whoever is dishonest with little will also be dishonest with much. A stingy person who uses the excuse of having no money for their stinginess is actually just lying to themselves. We can be generous with what we have. We can have a generous heart with what we had. God gives us good things, but he makes it clear we are not on this earth to hoard and grow our pile. God gives it for us to give to others. He blesses us to be a blessing. This is what it says. God is able to bless you abundantly. This is Paul writing to the Corinthian church. God is able to bless you abundantly so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. He who supplied seed to the sower. The seed comes first, and bread for food will also supply and increase your store of seed and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness. You will be enriched in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion. And through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. You might look at this and say, well, when I feel enriched, that's when I will be generous. But that's backwards. It's backwards. That doesn't work in God's kingdom. You've got to sow first. The sowing of the seed comes first. The process starts with sowing and then we reap. This is another instruction that Jesus gave. Look what the word it starts with. Give and it will be given to you. It doesn't say it will be given to you so you can give. It starts with give. You give and it will be given to you. And then he says a good measure, pressed down, shaken together and running over will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. And the great thing about this principle is it doesn't just apply to finances. It applies to forgiveness. It applies to patience. It applies to relationships. It applies to all areas of our life. God wants us to live generous lives. And when we live generous lives, even in small ways, it will be given back to us. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. According to instructions in the Old Testament, farmers who lived in Israel were to leave the grain in the corners of their field for poor people. So when they harvested, they would harvest the field, but they would leave the corners unharvested. They would just cut the grain and leave it there for poor people to come and get it. So the farmers' harvesters would carry a basket. They would come in, they would fill it up a bit, they would go to the barn, and then they would dump it out and go back to the field, begin filling the basket again. And to these workers, it didn't matter how full their baskets were. They were being paid by the hour. They just needed to stay busy, keep working until all the grain was in the barn. But this wasn't for the case for the poor people who were working around the edge. They'd sometimes traveled miles to get to this field. They had one basket that they had to carry home. And so what they would do is they would fill up their basket right to the top, good measure. They would then press it down and put a bit more in. They would then shake it to get rid of any air pockets in there. And then they would have it so that it was running over because they're going to carry this basket. Whatever they had in their basket at the end of the day was going to be their food for that day. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over. It's one thing to get a basket of free grain. It's a far better thing to receive this basket that's pressed down, good measure, shaken together, running over. And Jesus used these terms because he wanted to communicate that whatever you give, you're going to get a lot more of the same of in return. That's not the reason why we give, but this is a kingdom principle. Where I used to work in London, in Fulham, when I was lecturing there was a Chinese buffet restaurant, and I'd sometimes go in there for lunch, and they charge £8. Who likes a buffet? Eat an all-you-can buffet. Yeah? Come on, Cosmo, yes. But there was this Chinese buffet, and you could go there for £8, you could have as much as you like. But they also did this thing where for £4, you could do a takeaway. They would give you a little plastic carton, and you could go along and fill up this plastic carton for £4. Like, what a great lunch. £4, like a meal deal. And so what would I do? I would fill up my thing. I would press it down. I would shake it a little bit. I would fill it up again. And by the time I got the lid on that thing, there was noodles coming out the sides, like it was running over. Like, this is my lunch, and it's kind of piled high and trying to force the lid on. In fact, I saw this example in the International Feast. Some of you guys, you filled up your plates early on, going down the side here, but then you realized there was more food, more great food, further up the table. And so you were shaking it, and there was food hanging over the side, and you pile it on. That's what we want to do. That's the blessings that God has for us. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over. Generosity is not the result of financial freedom. Generosity is a route to financial freedom. Being a generous person, because it's a mind issue, it will lead us to freedom. So there's 3 principles to get us started in finding financial freedom: contentment, integrity, and generosity. I want to continue this next week because we're going to look at how we can apply this even more to our lives. So I'm going to look at that next week. When people look at us, when people look at our lives and our choices, and particularly the way that we respond to trouble and difficulties of life, they should see something surprising. They should stand back and say, there's something about them, there's something different about that person, and I will like it and I want it for myself. Maybe they can't put their finger on what the difference is, but we know it's because we've spent time with Jesus. As we've come to a close today, Freedom, we've been talking about freedom from pressure, from fear, from the pull of money, freedom to trust God, freedom to live generously. It all comes back to one thing. Jesus is not just the model of freedom. He's the source of it. He didn't just teach freedom. He actually paid the price for our freedom. But the truth is we don't naturally live free lives. Would you guys mind coming and handing out? We're going to take communion together.